In today's short session, we're going to look at what is appeasement. Who were the key players in the policy of appeasement pursued by the British government in the 1930s? And why would the British government, in the face of enormous Nazi aggression, pursue such a policy?
We start with an easy question. What is appeasement? There are a number of technical academic definitions. Here's one. As you can see, technical language, a lengthy definition. The policy of settling international quarrels by admitting and satisfying grievances through rational negotiation and compromise, thereby avoiding the resort to an armed conflict which would be expensive, bloody and possibly dangerous. Now you have to remember the policy of appeasement was pursued after World War I, the Great War, the war to end all wars, a war that devastated Europe. In plain language, appeasement, therefore, is the policy of exceeding or giving in to the demands of a potentially hostile nation in the hope of maintaining peace. In this case, in the hope of avoiding another military conflict or war. So if we think about this really simply, to appease someone is to bring peace, is to attempt to avoid conflict. And this word, appeasement, is most associated with the policy pursued by the British government in the 1930s, particularly under the leadership of Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. Its aim was to negotiate with aggressive foreign powers, most notably Nazi Germany, in order to prevent war. And here we can see that a policy is an official course of action.
Appeasement is the policy of making concessions to dictatorial powers in order to avoid conflict. Appeasement was a very popular policy among leaders in the 1930s, especially the French and the British. In fact, if you were to type appeasement on Google, a link would show up on the side of the screen that would lead you to a page about the British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. Neville Chamberlain became the British Prime Minister in 1937. Having lived through World War I, he wished to avoid another war at any cost, and because of this, Chamberlain's way of dealing with Adolf Hitler, the Chancellor of Germany, was one of appeasement.
We've already heard that a key player in the policy of appeasement in the 1930s was Great Britain's Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. Who was he trying to appease? Well, of course, the primary person he was trying to appease was Nazi German Führer Adolf Hitler. Now, what did Adolf Hitler want when he became Chancellor of Germany in 1933? One of his primary aims was to reverse the Treaty of Versailles. We know that the terms and conditions of the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 were incredibly harsh. Not only did Germany have to accept the blame for World War I in a war guilt clause, they had to repay vast sums of money. They had restrictions on the number of soldiers that they could have in their army. The restriction here was 100,000. And they lost 13% of their land. Of course, Hitler wanted to create a greater Germany by uniting all German-speaking people. And here we're referring to not only his Aryan racial policy, a policy that sought to privilege people of Aryan background, but we're talking about Anschluss here. He wanted to reunite Germany with other nations of German-speaking people. In other words, he wanted to reclaim some of that land that he lost. Why did he want the land? He wanted the land because he wanted Lebensraum, living space for the German people. And here the German people, of course, are the Aryans.
All human culture, art, science and technology that we see before us today are almost exclusively the creative product of the Aryan race. The pure Aryan Germans need more Lebensraum. This is their right and their destiny. We will look east to our neighbors and to communist Russia for this new land.